Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well, and I know this is an incredibly uncertain time. It's probably the most overused word of the last few weeks, but with the Prime Minister announcing new restrictions and some further restrictions even coming in on a state-by-state basis, I know many people are now wondering what's next and are worried about themselves and their neighbours and their loved ones. And I want to let you know that we are all in this together and we are all going to get through this together, and we're going to make sure that we leave no one behind. I'm sorry about the dodgy background. Speaking of behinds, it's the best we can do at the moment in the circumstances. But putting the background aside, there's a very important issue that I want to talk to you about. It's urgent and it's going to be decided tonight, and it's about housing. I want you to imagine for a moment being pregnant, knowing that you're going to give birth in a couple of months and not having a house. Now, that's a situation that a couple of women that we spoke to the Minister about last week are in Melbourne at the moment. It's a terrible situation. It's tragic. It's happening right around the country. But imagine that happening as the coronavirus is hitting as well. Imagine being at risk, not having a house, not having a roof over your head, and also knowing that you're about to have a baby as well. We have a homelessness crisis in this country, and we have a housing crisis in this country, and it could get a lot worse during the coronavirus crisis, because there are millions of people around the country who are now losing their jobs, who are wondering how much money they're going to have, and are wondering too if they're going to be able to afford their rent or if they're going to be able to afford their mortgage. Now, it is time that the National Cabinet, that the Prime Minister and all the premiers drew a simple line in the sand and said everyone deserves a roof over their head. And during this coronavirus crisis, there can be no evictions, there can be no foreclosures of mortgages, no one can be turfed out onto the street during this crisis, and anyone who's currently without a house needs to have a place with a roof over their head. I mean, amongst other things, how can you self-isolate if you don't have a place to call your own and a roof over your head? But it's as a basic human right. We need to make sure that, yes, just as we're keeping the economy ticking over, just as we're looking after people who are doing it tough, we also need to make sure that during a pandemic, no one is evicted, no one is foreclosed, no one loses their home. Tonight at the National Cabinet meeting, when Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister, and all the premiers are getting together, the issue of housing will be on the agenda. And there is some good news. There's some big and good news coming out of New South Wales, because last night, while Parliament was sitting, the New South Wales Parliament passed a Greens amendment to give the Minister the power to stop evictions during the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis. That's right. Thanks to the Greens in New South Wales, the Minister will now have the power, with a stroke of a pen, to be able to say, no one is going to be evicted. And of course, we're calling on the Minister to use that power, but it is a big step forward. What we need to do now is take that push nationally. And so I am writing, together with Senator Mehreen Faruqi, our housing spokesperson, to the Prime Minister, to the Premiers, to the Chief Ministers, all the members of our National Cabinet, to say, when you meet tonight to discuss housing and discussing all of the other important matters to do with the coronavirus crisis, like restrictions and so on, make housing a key priority. We want you to make sure there are no evictions for renters and no foreclosures for people on mortgages. We want rent holidays and mortgage holidays for the people who need it. Lift rent assistance for everyone else. Lift the amount of money that you are giving to all of those amazing homelessness and housing crisis service providers who are trying to find a house for everyone to live in. Make sure that there are places available for women who are fleeing domestic violence and facing the threat of domestic violence, for whom the time of a lockdown can be a very uncertain and very difficult time. We need to make sure that as we get through this crisis, that no one is left behind. So the Greens have already got results in New South Wales overnight, with a big step forward where the Minister can ban evictions in New South Wales. We want your help to now take that push nationally. Okay, and this will make a big difference. I'm not sure if it's above or below. You'll see the link in the text to our renters and housing campaign page. We need people signing up. and we need everyone to be standing up very, very strongly and unanimously, sending a very clear message to the National Cabinet when it meets tonight that you must make sure that everyone has a roof over their head. It's a human rights issue. It's a basic fundamental issue, principle that everyone should have the right to a roof over their head, but it's a health issue as well. We want to make sure that people are able to stay at home when they need to, that people aren't wandering the streets looking for a place to sleep, potentially if they're affected by the coronavirus. So if we want to flatten the curve and stop the spread, the best way of doing it is to make sure that when we call for everyone to stay at home, like the Prime Ministers and Premiers are doing, that they've got a home to stay in. So if you agree with us that this is a fundamental issue of human rights and that during a pandemic no one should be kicked out onto the streets, please sign up with our campaign. We've had some success in New South Wales overnight, in the federal parliament over the last couple of days. We've managed to get the coronavirus supplement extended to students. We're fighting to get it for people on disabilities and fighting to get it for carers as well. We've managed to get the mutual obligation requirements suspended. We've managed to get the stimulus package extended to the not-for-profit sector. And now we're turning our attention to housing. This is a crucial issue that just hasn't been spoken about enough by our Prime Minister and by our National Cabinet. But with your help, we will make sure that after tonight's meeting, that everyone can be guaranteed that during this time of crisis, they have got a roof over their head. Thank you for joining us to make sure that no one is left behind. Look after yourself. I'm not sure what the appropriate sign-off is in these times. I'm going with take care. I hope everyone takes care of themselves, of each other, and of their loved ones. And look, just know that we are all in this together. We will get through this together, and we need to make sure that no one is left behind, and we need to look after each other. I'll see you again soon. Please go and sign up. Let's make sure that after tonight, during this coronavirus crisis, everyone has a roof over their head.